Dois, três. 1, 2, 3, testing. Can you hear me now? Okay. Let me do something weird here. Hello, everyone. How is the quality? I'm not sure. Like our connection was working for the past 2 days, like a perfect internet connection, and now you know how it goes when you need it. Okay, great. Sounds like everything is working. So let's go ahead. So here how this is going to work. I'm going to go through a couple of slides, talk a little bit about the things that we did with 2.0, the things that we are planning to do, and how it differs from version 1. What's the end game here for us? And a couple of other things and announcements. Yeah. So we'll do this. Like to be completely honest, I'm a bit frustrated because I was expecting to be able to do some quick like live demos here, but OBS and my machine and the local server, they were not working together at all, and the connection now. But yeah, so yeah, Dustin, that sounds like a good idea. Let's wait a little bit just so everyone can join us. So as you can see there on the chat, Juliana is the one that it's going to be responsible for managing things over there, and by the end, when we have the Q&A, she'll make sure that I don't forget anything important. And please let us know on the chat if audio goes bad or video goes bad. If anything goes wrong, just let me know and we'll try to figure out what might be happening. So it's probably a good idea to post on the community that they need to come and use the YouTube chat. That way we only have one place to centralize questions and things like that. Okay, so should we wait until it turns like 10 past 5, like in 1 minute, and then we get started? Yeah, we have a good bunch here already, so it's probably a better idea to just get started and people can join in as we go. How does that sound? Good. So as I mentioned, I'll go through a couple of points that I think are important to make regarding the new version, what happens to development from now on, how we are going to deal with issues, bugs, reports, uh, what the launch means for the development process in general, and what it means for people running networks using the current version, the legacy version now, WP Ultimo 1.x. How we plan to support the older version, and yeah, all of that good stuff. So let's get started. So on today's agenda, I'm going to go over the yesterday's release. We're going to talk a little bit about the next steps, get a little bit more specific about why 2.0 was needed, why it took that long, and where we're trying to go with it. So I'm going to give you the bigger picture, the thing that we are aiming towards. Then I'll talk a little bit about learning, how we plan to teach how to use the new version and its new features. And by the end, we have the Q&A, where we'll have maybe 40 minutes or so to discuss, so you can ask questions and we'll try to answer them. But yeah. So to get started, I just want to summarize what happened yesterday with the release of the new version and what that means in general. So we were in the development phase of WP Ultimo 2.0. That's no longer the case. So now WP Ultimo 2 is the default version of WP Ultimo. It's the version that new customers will get when they purchase a new license. And customers that are running networks on WP Ultimo v2 already will start to receive updates directly on the WordPress admin panel as a regular update for a plugin. Our goal was really to release the new version and with the go ahead for existing networks, so they could go and run a few tests, of course, and run the migrator, and that would be it. But the past 2-3 days, where we've been gathering reports about the migrator's performance. I'm still not 100% confident in recommending people that have actual real customers on a live network running that migration just yet. It would be great if they could test, maybe get a staging copy, something like that, to test the migrator. Because the thing about the migrator is that it only takes one failure to make the whole process go south. So, for example, we have this entire cascade of data objects. So you have a site that relies on a membership, that relies on a customer, that relies on a product. So if any of the steps of that chain fails, you might end up with complete garbage at the end. But we are trying in as many networks as we can get our hands on, and we get varying results. It works a good chunk of the time, but we still have some hiccups here and there depending on the hosting, the PHP config, so timeouts, things like that. So we are still trying to figure out a couple of improvements that we can make to the migrator in a way that it is safe to, not safe, safe is not the word, it's like we can guarantee that it will work 90% of the time regardless of your plugin combination and your hosting environment and things like that. So that's the goal here. And yeah, and then we have, now that 2.0 is out, just so I don't forget. So that's the reason why we did not release the new version as a update for current networks, because my fear was to basically commit the first ever occurrence of suicide by support requests, because we were not able to inject a warning message to tell that this is a big upgrade. Don't upgrade on a live network. Do a backup. And I was really afraid that without that warning, even though people shouldn't, they would update WP Ultimo and maybe completely break a business that has actual customers. So those are the reasons why it's not yet an update for View 1 customers, View 1 networks. Yeah, so in terms of development priorities, now that we have the base 2.0 version out, we want to prioritize, of course, feature parity. So there are still a couple of add-ons that worked with version 1 that don't have a counterpart in V2. So the domain seller is one example. Other add-ons, they work already, but we are working on new versions for them as well. A good example is the integration with Affiliate WP. So our priority now is twofold. We want to fix as many bugs as we can in this first couple of weeks. So later today, we are going to have a 2.0.1 and maybe even a 2.0.2, because there are a couple of issues that I want to make sure get out today. Yeah, and we want to make sure that customers from View 1 can migrate as soon as possible. So we need to make sure that we have the same add-ons available and that they are somewhat backwards compatible in such a way that a customer can migrate and still have all the functionality work in the way it worked on View 1, but now they have all of this new possibilities that they can explore with the new version. Yeah. So in terms of the releases, so one thing that I did that was bad was that we didn't really had a release schedule, a fixed release schedule, and we'll have that in place now. So our plan is to have a new release every Monday. Of course, now in the first couple of weeks, we'll have multiple releases per week as issues come up. Yeah, we'll have a fixed release schedule, which I think makes all the difference, both for you in terms of previsibility and for the developers, because we know we have a fixed date. So we know that by Monday we need to have a something to put out, and we're going to do it in the beginning of the week. That way we can close the release by Friday, and on Monday we can dedicate Monday to testing everything, making sure everything works, and releasing by the end of the day on Monday. And yeah, and that's something that changes as well. Now that we have released 2.0, we need to be much more careful about releases, because there are like already very large networks running on version 2, and we don't want to break things. So it's a completely different dynamic to what we had with the betas and the release candidates. So yeah, we'll have a fixed release schedule. In terms of support for legacy, it pretty much got abandoned while we worked on V2, because there was really there is no excuse for it, but there was so much work that we basically forgot about like releasing new builds for the legacy version, and that's also going to change. So the idea is it's to have regular releases and fixes for the legacy version, because I know that there are a couple of people that have either like developed custom code that relies completely on the way that the previous version worked, that won't be able to migrate to version 2 anytime soon. And it's one of our products, and we need to maintain it. It's basically it. So and the plan that we have now is that I mentioned that on the post, since I don't have a way to inject that warning message inside the admin panel to warn users about the upgrade, what we will do is that we will release a new version of the legacy WP Ultimo with extra checks for the migrator to make sure that data integrity is sound before we even try to migrate. And so we will probably release a new version for the legacy before we can make the version 2 available as an update for legacy customers. So that's the plan here in terms of how we plan to bring legacy customers to version 2. They'll have to do a mandatory step in a new intermediary version before they can upgrade. That way we can make sure that we are adding extra checks before V2 gets installed and activated, so we can prevent like some sort of catastrophic failure. Yeah, so I think that would cover the things here. Yeah, let me see. Sorry guys, it's just I have the YouTube stream here, and I have the chat here, and I get distracted. I'm sorry. But yeah, so just to recap real quickly, in terms of development priorities, of course, crushing the bugs that are still in version 2. And in second place, making sure we can release the add-ons that we had for V1 on V2, so we can get to a level of feature parity. Those add-ons include, of course, affiliate WP, plugin and theme manager, uh, domain server. Sorry, the dog. Yeah. So now we are going to get a bit more big picture, if my dog allows me to talk. Uh, so, what are the main differences between version 1 and version 2? There are basically two, but those differences, they branch out into a bunch of different stuff, some of which we're going to cover today. So basically, those two things are the purpose and the flexibility, and they are somewhat interconnected. My original idea for WP Ultimo was to build a almost drop-in replacement for pro sites. I know that a bunch of you know this story already, but WP Ultimo as a project started because I had a WAS, a website as a service, called Out Canvas, where the idea was to offer a portfolio, like a quick way to get a portfolio online for illustrators, photographers, and we started to build a custom solution, like outside of WordPress, using Node, and we spent so much time working on the basics. So when you start a project from scratch, you don't have anything. So you need to figure out how to create users, how to store passwords securely, how to create a login page. And it soon became clear to me that we were wasting our time developing a bunch of things that we could get somewhere else, and that we could use that time to create our product, like the part of the product that our customers would really use. So we decided to switch and use WordPress multi-site as a starting point because it made all the sense for us. You could spin up new websites for new customers, and we could use something to copy websites. That way our customers would have a starting point and they could just upload their photos. And then we reached the part where we needed to create plans and offer those plans to those customers. And I went to shop around for plugins that did that. And I found ProSites was pretty much the only option available at the time. And we decided to use it. It was the only option available at the time. And at first it worked more or less well, but as soon as we realized that we wanted to add new stuff and I had to try to extend the code of ProSites, I realized that we probably made a mistake choosing ProSites. But at the time, I had already a bunch of stuff developed based on the premise that we would use ProSites. So when I sat to develop something custom that would handle what ProSites used to handle for us, it needed to be almost a drop-in replacement for ProSites. That means that we used ProSites as a reference for almost every design aspect of WP Ultimo when we first started, down to the database structure of the products. And the thing about Pro Sites is that it's really not a product that was built for general use. It was something that WPMU Dev developed for themselves because they have like Campus Press and Edu blogs. And so it was built to their requirements. And yeah, and as a result, the base code, the foundation for the old version of WP Ultimo was built with a bunch of limitations and rigidity that I put in place because it had to be compatible with Pro Sites. So yeah, we managed to work around those limitations with time, but those limitations were the main reason why I talk about a version 2 for pretty much 3 years now. Because I knew that if we were to explore all the possibilities that the website as a model has, as a service model has, and the greater implications of a platform like WP Ultimo, we were going to need to rebuild it from scratch. It was like a given. The problem was that I did not do a good job communicating that, but okay. So eventually we learned how to work our way around WP Ultimo, and we did create some great products using WP Ultimo as a base, but it always requiring tons of custom development, tons of hacky ways to get things to work. It was not ideal. Like, I did not like to develop projects using WP Ultimo. Yeah, and as the user base grew and new requirements started to pop up, it was harder and harder to try to come up with a solution that would bypass all of these limitations and implement that feature. So we literally had in the database 3 pricing fields for legacy WP Ultimo. One for monthly, one for quarterly, and one for yearly. That's it. That's the 3 options. So to get around those limitations were a challenge. We did manage to do it for a while, but it would be impossible to develop and to reach the place that we want to reach based on the legacy version alone. Yeah. So that's what I was saying. In the end, like WP Ultimo Legacy, it works if you have a very specific set of requirements. If you want to build a classic website as a service product, almost like a web hosting of sorts, it will cover 100% of your needs. If you try to create anything a bit more creative, you're going to have a hard time. And now it's the moment where I do mea culpa, because as I mentioned, I knew fairly early on. Sorry, my English is a bit rusty. That we would need a new foundation, and I got so excited with the idea of building that new foundation, and I so underestimated the amount of work that it would take that I told told everyone that version 2 was something that was going to come in a quick manner. But to do the things that we really saw that WP Ultimo needed to do, We had to start from scratch, and it's a completely new code base, and it's built for the next 5 or 10 years. So it's flexible in a way that it allows us to build pretty much anything we can think of. Um, and that idea got me excited, and I wanted to talk about it to everyone. But those discussions about the idea quickly became promises, and I didn't realize how much work we were taking on. So, yeah, this is why releasing version 2.0 is so important for me, because for me personally, it symbolizes almost like a new starting point where we can make sure that the same mistakes are not made. So that's why we're going to have weekly releases. That's why we have the new community where we can actually have discussions, and we have a chat in there. And so for me, it's almost like a new beginning where we can establish new processes to make sure that the thing that happened with the along the development of this new version will not happen again. But I'm getting ahead of my slides here, sorry. So version 2 is this new foundation. It took a while, but we finally got there. We have no limitations on how billing works now. You can pretty much come up with any billing combination you can come up with. You have the ability to offer packages, services. There are some other new things that we are building that I'm really excited about. But yeah, so here, this slide is important. So we used to sell WP Ultimo, and we're probably still going to sell WP Ultimo as a plugin that allows you to create a website as a service product. The reality is that very few of you are creating website as a service products. You're all creating software as a service products. It's a broader concept. It requires more flexibility. So the beauty of WordPress multi-site is that you can use it as a starting point to almost every idea you can come up with, because it gives you everything you need in terms of the infrastructure. You have customers managed for you. You have boxes where you can put functionality that we call sites, but that it doesn't need to be sites. We call sites because we know WordPress as something that you use to create sites, but it goes beyond that. And that was a realization that came to me, that was an important one, because I realized that we are not building WP Ultimo to be a website as a service plugin. We are building WP Ultimo to become something much greater, much more, I don't want to use the word flexible again, but we want to enclose, no, it's not the word, to cover a larger surface area, because as I mentioned, there are very few projects that our users do that could be classified as simply website as a service. They are they are software as a service products that happen to be a website. It's almost like an afterthought. And they are leveraging the WordPress ecosystem, its plugins, and the easy of development to implement features inside this box that we call sites, but one could call a web application, and to sell that as a service. So that's the way we're going here. WP Ultimo is still a website as a service platform. If you want to build a simple website as a service where a customer comes in and gets a template and a default WordPress admin panel, that will work. But we want to give you the chance to explore, and we want to help you realize that you're actually building a software as a service product, period. And it doesn't matter if it runs in WordPress or not. If it delivers the functionality that you promised to your customer, it's not different to a SaaS that was developed from scratch in some other technology. So that's the idea, and we want to take it one step further. And this one, I want to, like, it will take time, this one, but we will get that there progressively. It's not something that will happen instantaneously, but it's not something that we're going to promise this entire package of things that will arrive in the future. We're going to be continuously delivering features that will bring us to this point. So we have two main goals. One for non-developers and one for developers. For non-developers, we want to offer a way to create a SaaS product or a WAS product with as little code as possible. So we want to build a way to create a SaaS product like every other SaaS product that exists in the market, in a purely no code way. So the idea here is that we will give you the tools to create the user experience for the product that you are developing, and you can leverage the WordPress ecosystem, its plugins that do part of the functionality that you're going to offer, to basically come up with an MVP without the need to hire anyone to do custom development for you, because like most of our customers, they're not developers. They have a great product idea and they know their way around WordPress, page builders and things like that, form builders. And the idea is that we want to close this gap in such a way that we can leverage all of these tools, WordPress plugins, the WordPress ecosystem, WordPress multi-site, and all of the things that are there already, and we can come up with the tools to create the user experience in terms of a admin panel and handle billing, recurrency, creating new accounts, running promotions, everything that comes with developing a SaaS. And for developers, we want to offer a development framework that allows them to go from an idea to an MVP with very little effort, because we had to develop, like, most of the tools that we're going to document and cover with tutorials for developers, they are already built inside WP Ultimo. And sorry, I saw the chat again. Because developing for WordPress can be a challenge sometimes, especially when dealing with multi-site. And so in order to build WP Ultimo version 2 to the point where it is today, we had to spend a large chunk of time first developing the tools that we would need to be able to do that. So now in WP Ultimo, if you're a developer and you want to add a new admin panel page, you just need to extend a class and that's done for you. And that happens with a lot of things in WordPress. One of the things is one example that I'm going to do to talk about a little bit more. But for developers, what we're going for here is almost like an alternative to something like Laravel Spark, which is basically a SaaS shell that you can use as a starting point if you are a Laravel developer. The idea is that you only need to develop a Ultimo add-on with your core product functionality, and you have your MVP ready to go. Yeah, so those are, as I said, our long-term goals that we will gradually walk our way towards. And I'm super happy because a good chunk of the things that enable these goals, they are done. So it's a matter of watching people use it to see what the needs really are and how we can incorporate those needs into the product. Yeah, so this is just one example, one sneak peek, let's say. But one thing that WP Ultimo version 2 introduces is something that we call WP Ultimo Elements. It's basically a way to encapsulate a block of content and have that block be available in the admin as a meta box, in the front end as a shortcode or a block editor block. And in the future, we plan to have implementations for Beaver Builder and Elementor and other page builders as well. But and for developers specifically, it's a way that you can create a piece of user experience once and have that be available as a block, as a shortcode, as a meta box, as an Elementor widget, as a Beaver Builder widget, writing code only once. So that's the first step that we're taking in this direction. And it comes with two things that we are working on. The first is a new website type, sub-site type, called admin panel site. So now in WP Ultimo, we have three three types of subsites. We have a regular, no, we have the main site, which is a special type, the regular site, which is are sites that are not really used for WP Ultimo purposes. We have template sites, which of course you can use as a template when creating a new account. And we have sites that are owned by a customer. So in the next couple of weeks, we will add another type of site, which is the admin panel type of site. And the idea here is simple. We have all of these WP Ultimo blocks, WP Ultimo elements. There's already a block for the list of sites that a customer has, or another block for the membership data, another for the limits, another for the block that lets you to map a domain. So the idea here is that we'll keep adding elements. So there's an element that's coming, which is basically a post editor that you can bring to the front end. And we're trying to make it work with Gutenberg on the front end as well, but it already works with the classic editor, let's say. So that's one example. And the idea is that you are going to be able to create a completely customizable admin panel on the front end. You just need to mark select on each plan. You can select a admin panel site, and instead of being redirected to the admin panel of WordPress, the customer, after he logs in, he's going to be redirected to the admin panel site, and that admin panel site can be created, all the pages can be created using WordPress pages, all the menus can be created using WordPress menus. You can control the visibility of certain elements based on the membership and the account, and you can position the blocks in any way you want, because you're building the page with your favorite page builder or Gutenberg or shortcodes. And to close that package, the other part of the equation is our first WordPress theme, which is called the Dash. And it's basically a admin panel shell that you can completely customize, and you can use these blocks to start creating an admin panel using one or multiple subsites as admin panels for certain products and things like that. So in theory, you could even have like multiple SaaS products running on the same network and redirect certain plans to completely different in style, in implementation admin panels, and you won't need a single line of code to do that. You can all use blocks, shortcodes, your favorite page builder. That's the idea. So this is just one example of what the end goal is. We want you to install WP Ultimo and to be able to create a completely customizable user experience that loses nothing to a software as a service product that was developed from scratch with custom code, with custom developers by hiring developers, and give you, and I'm just excited to see what people will build, because it always amazes me to see what people like. With all the limitations of WordPress, of WP Ultimo legacy, we already saw like some products that wowed me in and that I can't believe like that people actually built that particular thing using WP Ultimo. So I'm really excited to see what people will build once we start to deliver these kind of tooling and these kinds of uh, possibilities. So that's one example. There's more coming. So and it's too abstract here, and it's on purpose. But the next couple of weeks, once the issues with the release start to uh, uh, like the number of bugs reported decreases, we will start to make the announcements and to release at least the beta versions of those things. Um, yeah, and for developers, there are two things that I wanted to talk about. First, if you're planning to build something with WP Ultimo and you're a developer, we have started to work on the development documentation, explaining how things work. And we will release things as they get ready, because I don't want like to stall for a long time to have the documentation be perfect and never be out. So we'll probably start to release things in increments. And then if you were a developer and you had to develop a add-on for WP Ultimo or something like that, or you are a freelancer that specializes in developing for WP Ultimo, or have some experience with developing for WP Ultimo, there are two things that we are putting in place. So the first is the marketplace tab inside the add-ons page for WP Ultimo. And the idea of that page is to have a curated list of third-party add-ons for WP Ultimo. And we will also have an experts program where we basically, like, it's almost like a certification program without being a certification program. But the idea is that once you get a good sense that a developer knows how to use WP Ultimo and knows how to develop for WP Ultimo and has some experience doing that, and it's like an active member of the community and things like that, we'll have a special tag in the community and a way to connect people that want custom development to these experienced developers. So, and there are other things as well. So one thing that we're going to be releasing also in the next couple of weeks for developers is basically a add-on generator where you can use you can like generate the boilerplate code you need to develop an add-on for WP Ultimo. And yeah, and there's more in that, like that way. Okay, so now let's talk about the community. So I really like the way things are going with the community right now. It's a place that we control. There's some flexibility in the software that we are using. We could have used WordPress, but I was too busy like trying to make people not hate me for delaying version 2 another time. But the community, it's going to become a central place for WP Ultimo in general. And that starts with the way we teach and we cover how to use WP Ultimo in a proper manner. So as you can see here on the screenshot, we have already started to work on a couple of tutorials covering the basics, how you can start building your network, how you can manage your network once it's running, how you can extend and integrate. And here we talk about things that WP Ultimo version 2 has that you probably won't stumble upon unless you're looking for it, like the REST API support, like the WP CLI support, like our integration on Zapier, which is no longer in beta there. You can actually use our version 2 integration in Zapier already to create a membership inside WP Ultimo version 2 based on something that happens on another service by using Zapier. And then some more specific topics like how you go about scaling a network that is growing, what are the tools that are supported when you need to do, for example, database sharding, which is something that is fairly complex to do in a way that works. So we will have those discussions inside the community. All of these tutorials, they're actually just regular community posts. They can be commented on, and the idea is to create a ever-growing knowledge base where people can add knowledge to the original tutorials as they try things out and as they find a problem or a creative way to solve a problem. So the learn section of the community is something that is also going to be released in the next couple of weeks. There are still quite a lot of videos to record and to edit. But yeah, and we also have material in there specific geared towards developers, covering more advanced topics like how you can create a network that uses Composer to install WP Ultimo, so you can version your product as you make changes. And one way we'll use to teach those things is by building in public. So we have two products. There are real products that we are going to charge a monthly fee for, that we are going to basically build in public using WP Ultimo and other tools, and explain why we made some decision, why we're doing things that way, why you might try to do things differently. And the reason why we'll have two is that I want to cover the two ends of, not two ends of the spectrum, but basically we have a classic website as a service product, which is SaaS Notes. It's a very simple WAS. You create an account, you get a website where you can post updates of your product, and we added a couple of extra features like you can embed those updates inside your product, things like that. But it's a very straightforward textbook website as a service product. And we have ChatPress, which is a plugin that I bought 3 years ago in the hopes of uh, making a couple of improvements and releasing as a product, as a paid plugin like WP Ultimo. And I might still do that in the future, as I think some people would benefit from hosting uh, a, a thing like ChatPress in their own WordPress installations. But it's basically a live chat widget for um, your website, like the one we have in wpultimo.com. Um, but it's completely built to work with WordPress. It has a messages panel that support agents use, built on WordPress, on the WordPress admin. And our goal with this particular product is to use all of these features that I'm talking about to create such a product that people that don't know it was built with WordPress uh, will have no idea, because that's the goal. If you want to go beyond the website as a service general concept of just throwing your customer inside the WordPress admin and creating a completely customized user experience, you should be able to, and we'll do that with ChatPress, just to make sure that we know what it takes to do so, and that we learn from our own experience instead of relying 100% of external feedback. So yeah, so this is something that we are going to do inside the community as well. And yeah, I think that that covers everything in terms of the bigger picture. I'll do a couple of like sneak peeks in the following couple of weeks, but I know that the following couple of weeks are going to be very busy, because there are still bugs to be found in version 2. There are the add-ons that we need to release, and there's Black Friday and Cyber Monday next weekend. So the next couple of weeks are going to be a bit interesting. But I'll be around in the community, and I'll try my best to give a couple of sneak peeks here and there as we start to release things and things like that. And yeah, I think that would be it, and we could go to the questions. So now is the time that I can look to the chat without getting too distracted.
Okay, so we already have some questions.
Manda por texto, hein?
First is Paco Ayala. I think he has the question that everyone has. So when it will be safe to use the new version? When it will, like, if we have a date?
Okay, so the question was, when would it be safe to use the new version? So the short answer is that if you're building a new product, if you're starting from scratch, it's already pretty safe. You can go ahead and start with version 2. There are already, as I mentioned, there are networks, like there are actual networks, live products that people use every day that were built back on the alpha days, and like that were receiving customers back when we were still in alpha with lots of bugs and issues and all of that. So yeah, if you have if you're starting from scratch, go ahead, use the new version. It's probably the safest bet. And as I mentioned, it's the version that our new customers are getting when they purchase WP Ultimo now. So WP Ultimo, the old version, um, people are not receiving, they're not going to get access to that any longer. So every single customer that we get from now on will be running WP Ultimo V2. Can you send me the questions over on the chat?
Oh, next was Behive Network. How can we offer backups for single customers with one database?
Can you repeat?
How can we offer backups for single customers with one database?
Backups for customers with one database. So I'm assuming that you're referring to the way the WordPress multi-site works and how it's all hosted on one single, it's one database, one huge database that hosts all the subsites. So we have a add-on for version 2 now, which is the site exporter, importer and exporter. And it does basically that, but it right now it needs to be, it's a manual thing. It generates a zip file that contains all the themes, the plugins, and the database for that particular subsite. And that's an add-on that you can already install with version 2. What we're going to do now, it's simply extend the functionality of that add-on. So right now you can create an export of a site and you can import a site. There's a third tab in there that's backups. And the idea of that add-on is that idea. We want you to be able to offer single site backups for your customers as well as site export. So maybe you offer the possibility of leaving your network for some reason, and if they want to take their site with them, you can generate an export and give to them. But we can simply create a cron process to create those zip files with all the data that you need in a recurring manner. That's like the hard part is done, which is generating the export and the exporting the database for the subsites. Now what we just need to implement the recurring feature. And right now backups are local, so that's why we don't offer backups yet, because if you go crazy with the frequency, you can run out of disk space, because right now we save the zip files locally on the same server that is running the network. So the next stages for that particular add-on are those two. We want to implement backups and add the option of sending those backups to a remote location. So Amazon S3, DigitalOcean Spaces, things like that. So those are the roadmap for the site exporter importer add-on is that one. We will do the backups and then the option to send the backups or store the backups in a different place other than your main server, because that can cause problems. But yeah, I would recommend testing the site exporter add-on. You can see, like, it's really cool. You can export one of the subsites on your network and import that same site as a single site on a network. So maybe you have a customer that outgrew your network and you want to send to host that customer in a different place because the traffic like is messing up with the speed of the other subsites. You can simply export that site and import in another WordPress installation, and it will simply work. It's a great tool. Do you have something?
Yes, I just sent you a message like
Okay. So, oh my God. So, okay. So Lyle asked about the blocks. Will it work with Elementor? Yes. Right now they do already work with Elementor, but it's not the ideal implementation because you need to use shortcodes. But the way we developed it is that it's really easy to add a piece of code that reads the element and transforms that element into something that Elementor or Beaver Builder can understand. And the cool thing about that is that you can create customization options for the element, and those customization options, they appear as fields on the Gutenberg block, as options on the shortcode, and it will appear as well as fields on the Elementor or Beaver Builder thing. So that's the thing that I was talking about, developing the element once and having it be easily portable to different page builders. Yeah, so Dustin, how will this work with WP Frontend Admin? Do you envision this replacing just about any need for it?
Corno has the same question, so if you can.
Okay, so yeah, I have the same question. Will the dash replace WP Frontend Admin? It's a difficult question to answer because the WP Frontend Admin is a bit more flexible in a way that you can pretty much port every page of the WordPress admin to the front end. For me particularly, that implementation is not optimal. It can cause a lot of issues. But at the same time, the elements that we develop, they are going to be developed one by one. Like they're not. We'll probably have a general element that goes to the backend and fetches the content and handles in the front end. But the specific blocks, they will come as time progresses. So what I see happening is that you would use WP Ultimo Elements for the membership stuff, the domain mapping stuff, maybe to add a post, and if you have a specific feature that you want to port, you might want to use WP Frontend Admin to achieve that. In the meanwhile, while we don't have an element that does that natively, so to speak. Would there be experts for non-developers? That's a good question. I had not think of that. It's probably a good idea. Yeah, not everything is related to development. It's probably a good idea if we have a way to tag members in the community that are very knowledgeable about how WP Ultimo works. It's a good idea. I like it.
Just because we are talking about WP frontend admin, in digital had some question that relates to the
Where is it?
topic, specifically looking to get it to allow users to access H5P creation too. That's something I would like to know about WP.
Can you repeat, please?
That is something I would like to know too about WP and WP front-end admin, specifically looking to get it to allow users to access H5P creation tool.
H5B creation tool. Okay, I'm not sure.
H5P.
H5.
P.
I'm not sure what there is. But yeah, so right now, WP frontend admin is a great addition to WP Ultimo. We do have to talk to them to go over how they can make sure that they integrate with the blocks that already exist in the front end, because we use the site URLs to keep track of the site that the customer is managing on the front end, because we don't have we are not in the back end.
H5P is an interactive video tool with WordPress plugin.
Yeah, in that particular case, which is very specific, you probably still need a tool like WP Frontend Admin, because the way that they implement things is that they go to the backend and fetch everything that they need to make it work back to the front. It has performance implications, of course. It needs to be loaded dynamic, which is not a great user experience, which is the main reason why I don't like to do things in that way. But I think that there are specific use cases where you have a very specific functionality that you want to offer, where WP Frontend Admin might still be a good option to have on your tool belt when creating this front-end user experience. Okay. So it would be nice if ChatPress could integrate with WP Ultimo agent for logged in customers and guests. Yeah, that's something that we are going to do. The thing about ChatPress is that it's probably not a good idea to have it installed on the same network where you have in the same network that you have WP Ultimo running, because ChatPress tends to be a resource intensive plugin. But the cool thing about ChatPress is that as I mentioned, we bought the plugin that did chat and the conversations and had the panel on the back end. And one of the things that we added is that you can install ChatPress in one single WordPress installation and add widgets to multiple sites and have all of those messages come back to the site where you installed ChatPress. So our recommendation for using ChatPress, if we ever release it as a plugin, is that you have a separate WordPress installation where you can install it, and then you simply add the widget to the sites that you want to support or have support agents have access to. Okay, Dustin asks, future integrations such as Stripe Connect has been something long talked about. Do we have any sort of timeline on this sort of new integrations? 6 months plus, out still, not really. So Stripe Connect is something that we as you mentioned, it's something that has been asked for a good bit. Uh, we will so the just to get back a little bit. There are a number of things that interact with payments on WP Ultimo that we have more or less ready, but that we want to see how the current payment flows uh, behave in the wild before we release that as well. That way we can make sure that the structure uh, is solid before we add another like complication on top of it. So a good example of this is the multi-currency add-on, for example. It's something that it's pretty much, it's 80-90% ready, but I didn't want to release alongside version 2 because I want to see how things go first in terms like if we need to make any structural change that would become more complicated to do if people were already using add-ons that interact with that part. So Stripe Connect it's a bit on those lines. It's something that it's high priority. We just need to see which like plugins we want to support first. And another thing is that everyone has a particular like idea of what a Stripe Connect integration looks like. So maybe a good idea would be we could start a discussion on it in the community, just so we can see what are the use cases that people plan to have, which are the plugins that we would need to support, and yeah, work that out so we can, when it's time to implement it, we can just implement it and not have to think a lot about what we're trying to do. So Oliver Martin, will there be a bug and working on lists soon that keeps us up to date with the latest issues and schedule for when fixes are released? Yeah, so that's something that changes now. Now that we have 2.0 out, we will go back to to having a proper change log with the issues and the fixes, the issues, the things that we are adding in a given release. We have been using Feedbear for bug tracking. We'll probably stay there for a bit longer. One thing that I didn't announce is that one of the cool the cool things that version 2 allows us to do is to create SaaS versions of popular WordPress plugins. So there are a couple of plugins that we are trying to SaaSify, let's say. But yeah, we'll probably do. I need to update the Feedbear boards because most of the issues that are there were already fixed. I just didn't have the time to update them yet, and some of the issues there we were either not able to replicate or it's something too specific. And we need more info on how to replicate and or direct access to be able to take a look. But as I said before, our top one priority right now is to crush as many bugs as we can. Okay. Can we customize style for register page? yeah, with the new checkout element, you can pretty much create the page you want and drop the checkout form in there. If you're specifically mentioning the look and feel of the fields, you could, like, there's a custom CSS field on the checkout forms that you can use to add custom CSS. We do have plans to offer more customization options to the fields themselves, so you can uh, make changes. But the way it works right now, where the fields inherit the styles of the theme that you're using, um, will probably be the way we'll deal with it uh, for the foreseeable future. Um, Anything to help with GDPR and a single database. Plugins like MailPoet give user access to every subscriber across the network. So that's a good question, and that's a problem that I anticipate having with ChatPress, because it's one of the reasons why I think turning ChatPress into a SaaS is going to be a very large challenge, because we will need to come up with a solution where we can store the messages on the database without those messages being like in danger of leaking, because as you mentioned, the database is shared, and even if the database doesn't leak, we still have the issue of having every admin being able to read every message of every customer of our ChatPress product. And that's something that I'm pretty sure is not compliant with GDPR. So I don't have a solution for that yet, but it's a problem that we will have to tackle while we'll build ChatPress. And if we come up with a good solution for that, we can make it available for as a WP Ultimo add-on maybe. My plan right now, my plan of tackling that problem right now is to use encryption, so we can generate keys for specific database fields or database types in WordPress. So in the case of ChatPress, it's a custom post type with metadata, and we can tell ChatPress to encrypt the messages, and we decrypt the messages when we show the messages on the panel that the support agent is using. It's probably going to be a challenge. I know pretty much nothing about encryption and how it's done in a proper manner, but if we had to learn it, I'll share the process in the community as we go. Will you do an integration with WP Vivid for backups, or just focus on your own solution? Also, what cloud storage providers will you support? Will you support cloud backups to pCloud? So I'm not familiar with WP Vivid, but it all depends pretty much on how requested a feature is. Like, I want to offer a solution that handles backups because it's such an important part, and it's such a hard problem to solve in multi-site specifically. So there isn't really a good solution for backups focused on multi-site. Like, even on my own projects, my backup strategy has been like backing up the entire network, and that's not ideal at all. You should be able to restore a site or save a backup of a particular site without needing to restore the entire network. So that's why we are offering a solution of our own. Like I don't want you to have to pay for an extra plugin to deal with something that is pretty much uh, essential to running a business built on top of WP Ultimo. However, if there are enough demands for a particular integration, we have no problem in trying to implement it. Uh, in terms of cloud storage, we'll start with AWS S3 and DigitalOcean, and those are the first two because they share the same, basically the same API, so we can implement them only once and have both cloud storage providers. But I did some research already, and I know there are a couple of PHP frameworks that basically have all of different implementations for different things. So if we manage to use those, it's pretty relatively easy to add things like Dropbox, Google Drive. I'm not familiar with pCloud, but I'm pretty sure there's a plugin for if it's something that's popular, because I I don't know a lot of services, to be honest. But if it is popular, there's a good chance that there's a library that implements an integration already that we can simply hook into to add that integration. But as always, we need to prioritize implementing new features based on something, and demand is like it's a good way to do it, more or less. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. Christina, really, when do you expect to release the multi-currency support? So as I mentioned, it is an add-on that it's more or less ready. There's a couple of details to review. I don't think I would say probably another month before we release at least a beta version, just because we need to iron out the bugs that we have right now, and I want to see, as I mentioned before, how the payment system behaves in the long run. Not in the long run, but for a couple of releases to see if the way that we chose to do things will require some adjustment, or if we're safe to go and release things that tap into the payment system. Debunk, if I heard right, you now have the power to support customers purchasing domains via GoDaddy and another hosting provider. Could you share more info? So yeah, so back on version 1, we had a add-on called Domain Seller, and it only had Open SRS as a provider. We are working on the new version of the Domain Seller, and it offers Open SRS, but it also, we already implemented Namecheap and GoDaddy. So again, probably a couple, like 2 to 3 weeks before we release a beta version of it, but it's pretty much done as well. We just need to, it's another thing that like taps into the payment system, because the way we implement it is that you can create a new type of product and the customer can purchase that product, which is a domain in this case, or you can pre-attach that product to a plan that you already have. So it touches on the payment system. But yeah, it's pretty much almost ready. So some great work done by Daniel, one of our team members, which I think it's probably in the chat with you right now. Any plans to make site templates on separate multi-site server and connected to multiple U networks? That is an interesting idea, but it's not on our plans right now. It would be somewhat difficult to implement, to be honest with you. We do have something that is similar, so maybe depending on how things go, we could implement something like that if there's enough demand again. But one thing that we are going to implement, we're going to release, it's another site type. This one I'm just mentioning it, but this one is going to take, it's going to take a good while before it is released. So I'm not promising anything yet. But the plan is to have another type of subsite, which is an external subsite. And the way that would work, it's now that we have the REST API, you could we would give you a client plugin, and you would export one site from within your multi-site, install that site on a single site, install the WP Ultimo clients, and that client would communicate with the main network. And the idea here is that you would be able to manage that external site as if it was a subsite in the network. And the customer would be able to do things as if it was a subsite on the network. The idea here is that it adds support to something that is called WP multi-tenant, which is similar to multi-site, but it's a bit more scalable. So with this external site configuration, we are able to get multi-tenant to work in a fairly seamlessly way. So yeah, so that's something that we have like for the first semester of next year, something that we are already doing some research. And another interesting use case is that sometimes you have a subsite that outgrows your network. So maybe you have 20 customers and 99% of the traffic comes from one single subsite. And in cases like that, it might be a good idea to give that particular subsite a single install, but we want you to be able to manage that separate installation as if it was a subsite install. So all the payments, all the limitations, all works exactly the same, even though it's a completely separate WordPress installation. Not sure if this is the right stream to ask, but how does WP Ultimo support agents work? So the problem that support agents solves is that on WordPress, a super admin can do anything, including like removing other super admins. So let's imagine a scenario where you hire someone to do support for you, and they go in and they are a super admin. They can basically change things in any way they like because they are a super admin. They can change every WP Ultimo subscription. They can change every multi-site setting. They can even remove your super admin account if they wish to. So the idea behind support agents is that we want to allow you to create a super admin that is not really a super admin, and you can control the permissions that that super admin has. So you can make, for example, limit access to financial information on WP Ultimo. So if you're hiring someone to do support, there's really no need for them to see how much money you're making every month. So you can block access to that part of WP Ultimo. You can block access to certain dashboard widgets. You can block access to certain actions of WP Ultimo. So maybe you can have a support agent that can see a payment but cannot refund a payment, and there's a lot of granularity there. But the idea is basically that if you add someone as a super admin to a network, they can do anything they like, even if you wish to restrain it. Eduardo, you think in the future make some deep integration with Groundhog? Um, yeah, I don't see why not, but again, I'm not a user of Groundhog, so I don't really know in depth the use cases and what are the things that you are trying to achieve while integrating the two. So the good thing about the community is that we can start discussions about such integrations, and we can even like ask the the plugin developer to join the discussion on the community. And so it's it's possible that we have some sort of deep integration, but before we develop a deep integration, we need to understand what a deep integration even means and what are the real needs, because otherwise we get to the problem where I'll try to do a quick research on how Groundhog works and how it can integrate with WP Ultimo and come up with an integration that solves no problem at all. But yeah, so here's the thing, guys. You're all, I think most of you are members of the community. So if you want to start those conversations, add a post to the community and we'll talk about it. We'll give the opportunity to other WP Ultimo users to explain their use cases, and that way we can come up with a list of requirements that an integration would need to have to make sense, and I can get a good sense of how needed that integration is before I start to implement something that only one or two WP Ultimo customers will ever use. Does that make sense? Do we have a solution now for WordPress shared user in WP Ultimo version 2? So on version 1, we used to have a add-on called multiple accounts, which handled this problem for WooCommerce specifically. In version 2, that code was incorporated to the core plugin, so it's no longer a separate add-on, but it is an option in the admin panel for WP Ultimo. So if you go to settings and registration and login, you'll see that there's an option there to toggle the multiple accounts functionality. It's hard to implement a solution that works in general. So our approach so far has been to develop bypass the checks for specific plugins. Most of the problems with the shared user database, in our experience, came from WooCommerce and WooCommerce checking out in WooCommerce. And those, and for WooCommerce, we managed to get it to work. If you want to get an implementation for a specific plugin, we would need to take a look into how to do it. Is there going to be a very basic free version that will attract customers to third-party plugins that depend on the framework? Mm, not sure if I understand the question. Is there going to be a very basic free version that will attract customers to third-party? Um, I'm not sure. Do you mean like third-party plugins that we feature on the marketplace? I'm not sure if I understood the question. If you're asking about a free WP Ultimo version, that's something that has crossed my head a few times, but like there's no easy way to do something like a WP Ultimo Lite that makes sense in my head. Maybe it's an idea to like give some more thought, but uh, right now there's no plans of offering a WP Ultimo Lite or anything like that. Will you allow Elementor for checkout forms? Um, I'm not sure if I understand the question either. Right now, you can use the checkout forms inside the Elementor template. You just need to use the shortcode. If that's not working for you, it's definitely a bug, and please do let me know because it needs fixing. Can we get the ability to add custom classes to WP Ultimo buttons? Yep.
Regarding the question about the framework plugin, in digital set, I mean a basic framework plugin of WP Ultimo for third-party developers to build upon and offer to clients.
Okay. So yeah. So that's more or less uh, what I was talking about in terms of developer tooling and materials that we will provide. So one of the things that we uh, will announce soon, I hope, is the add-on generator, which generates the boilerplate, and it's not. Um, I'm still not sure. Like maybe what you're asking about is that like a stripped out WP Ultimo version, just the framework, just the functions, just the classes, none of the pages, the UI, none of that a developer could use to create a product on top of. Maybe that's what you're asking. I could see that happening, like a way to disable everything that WP Ultimo adds to WordPress in a visual way. It would depend if people actually ask for it, because for version 2, we will have this golden rule that we need to have, like, I need to feel confident that a good chunk of the user base actually needs an integration before I go and spend time developing that integration, because the new core version 2 is so huge that, and there's still like a lot of work to do in there, that we'll need to prioritize the things that we develop in terms of integrations and everything like that. Yeah. Can you do a quick explanation on how to do per seat and per site pricing in 2.0? So right now you can do it. It's not available yet. It's the same logic of the multi-currency add-on. The infrastructure is all there. Everything that we need to have it work is all there. I'm choosing not to release the add-on because I need to make sure that the structure that we laid out is sound uh, before we start to add things that depend on that structure. Because uh, as as long as you're using the regular version 2 and the payment gateways, uh, that's all good. But those things like the multi-currency add-on, things like the per seat add-on, things like the per site add-on, they hook into the payment functionality to make changes. So I just want to minimize rework if we discover now that there are a very large number of people testing using the version live and like getting real payments, that the hooks, the structure that we have in place is solid. Uh, like I'm pretty sure it's solid, but I don't want to like basically everything that I'm doing with version 2, I'm trying to avoid the traps that I fall into with version 1. And the major trap that I fall into with version 1 is that we got locked in the specific structure really early on. Right now we have a very flexible structure, and I'm 99% sure that we won't have any problems. But just to be extra careful, I want to delay those a little bit, just so I can be like, I can tell myself that I'm not making the same mistakes I made with the previous version, because that would be not a good thing to do. Okay, is WP Ultimo compatible with social logging plugins like Super Socializer or any other logging plugins like logging with Ajax? I haven't tested. What you can do is to add the social login. I'm not sure if you're meaning like to actually log in or to create an account. So the good thing about the new checkout is that it works for logged in users and guests. So you can have a page that is your registration form, and you have the first, maybe that's a good tutorial to add. Good question. But you can basically add a form with the basic, like the first fields for your registration form. So maybe a username, and right below that you have your social login, and then you can have it works like both ways. When the customer submits that form with the fields filled in, you pass that information to a second page where you have the checkout form for WP Ultimo. But if the customer chooses to use any of the social logins, it will create the user on WordPress, and then when the user gets redirected to the WP Ultimo checkout, he won't have to fill any of the fields for the info that already like username, password, and that. It's a good tutorial to write, because I know like explaining like this, it sounds like very complicated to do, but it's relatively easy to implement something like this. Will there be a way to add servers after the buy? Yeah, it's already there. Okay. And will we be able to invoice for late fees? At first, no plans to support like invoicing for late fees. It's something that we can look into, but it's not a priority at the moment, unless we get a lot of requests for such a feature. And will there be a way to add services after the buy? There is already a way to add services after the buy. If it's not working for you, it's a bug, please report to us. Uh, any plans to have DNS Manager within WP Ultimo v2? So that's an interesting question. So we used to have a plugin called WP DNS Manager. It integrated with WP Ultimo, but it seems to me that it got abandoned. So what we're doing right now is that I'm going to contact the plugin author, because I know who that person is, and ask what are the plans for the plugin. And if they do not have plans to continue to develop, we might fork it and manage as a separate plugin that integrates with WP Ultimo, or we might extract the functionality that we would need to make it work with WP Ultimo, and maybe transform that into a add-on that is specific for WP Ultimo. I'm not sure yet, but the first step is to contact the plugin author to see if he has plans to continue to manage it. Yeah. Any planning integrating WP Ultimo with Automator WP? No plan to integrate unless people start to ask for it and we discuss on the best way to do it. I know I have a vague idea of what Automator WP does, and I think it's an integration that makes sense. I'm not sure if it's something that would make more sense for Automator WP to do rather than us. But again, we need to see a group of people requesting the feature. Shortcode to view templates demos. The shortcode for the template list of version 1 still works, so you can use that if I understood correctly. Any way to charge for additional services? Yeah, overplan limit bandwidth storage. Yes, there is. There's a special type of product inside WP Ultimo version 2, which is called a package. And a package is pretty much like a plan, but so you can set the permissions, the limits, but unlike a plan, it only works when attached to a plan. So you can have, for example, a base plan that offers like 10 posts and a package that offers 10 additional posts. And if a customer purchases that package, it unlocks the extra 10 posts. And that can be done for any of the restrictions that WP Ultimo offers. So you can have a package that allows your customer to access a plugin, a theme, and other limits. How do... Okay. Maybe already covered, but is SSO now solved so that super admins can connect to all sites by default? Yes. The way we do it right now is by changing the cookie preferences that we set. Uh, yeah, but it does work. You can map a domain and have it be, and there's some back and forth, like it's the old SSO protocol, but now that all the major browsers have implemented cookie sandboxing, uh, we get around that by basically flexing the security level of the cookies that WP Ultimo set. That's not a huge security risk, but it's the only way that we can implement SSO for modern web browsers. And to be completely honest, I think that it's a feature that it's at risk that stop working at risk of stop working at some time in the future, because the browsers, they are implementing restrictions, more and more restrictions every day to restrict access to cookies. And the way we manage authentication in WordPress and in pretty much every web application is by using cookies. And so it's right now it works. I'm hoping it will continue to work, but there's a chance that Chrome or Firefox will change something and break the implementation. Um, Additional resources. Okay, so Dustin is asking, in relation to the question being talked about, can we automatically build this? What is the this? The packages. Yeah, so the package is just a WP Ultimo product. So the only restriction we have right now is that we are not able to create multiple memberships on the payment gateways. Most payment gateways don't allow for us to send a subscription with products that have different durations and things like that. So right now, if you have a package and a product, if the product is a recurring product, the package needs to have the same recurrency settings, so we can create a single membership with both of them. Or it needs to have the price variations that covers all the possibilities that we have. That way we go and test the package to see if there's any matching price variation, and we create a new membership with both the plan and the package together. There are better ways to do this, but this is the minimum way that we could implement this that works for pretty much all the major payment gateways. If we're talking something like Stripe, there are a lot of other possibilities that we could do, but for the general implementation, we needed to go with the minimum denominator, so we could implement gateways in a similar manner, and then in the future, if it makes sense, we can add specific implementations for specific payment gateways. Let's see. This one.
These packages, there are more questions about packages. You can put those two together.
These packages can be used for services also. Yeah, so there are two different types of products in WP Ultimo. We have services and packages. Packages, they add new resources. So new posts, all the limitations that WP Ultimo offers. Services don't add anything. It's just something that is there on the membership, so you know that you need to do something about that particular customer. But those are two different types of products that we have already on version 2. Can the package automatically bill overages, not just sell upsells when they run out? So this is one of the things that I tried to do with the original implementation, but it got too specific in terms of which gateways support it or not. So it is something that we maybe can add for specific gateways in the future, but as a general thing, I'm pretty sure that it's like almost impossible, especially like in Europe where you have 3D secure and you have to create mandates, and it's getting harder and harder to charge customer accounts or customer credit cards without having the explicit consent of the customer. Um,
Regarding packages as well, Oliver Martin is asking, when setting limits to packages, if you add 10 into the limit, will that be 10 extra or place a new total limit of projects?
10 extra. Uh, okay, so is the Zapier integration all working properly? I haven't been able to get it to work. It should be working, so it's not working, it's a bug. Please send me a message on the community or send me an email, preferably with super admin access and FTP access. And if you could like explain the issue that you're facing and how I can replicate it, I would appreciate it. It should be working. If it's not, it's definitely a bug. Is there an automatic way for WP Ultimo to add all plugins for limitations? Like to enable all plugins for limitations? I'm not sure if I understand the question here. Uh, yeah, you mean like even if you install a new plugin, that plugin gets automatically enabled for a particular plan. Is that right? If that's the case, no, there's no way to do that right now. You have to manually enable a plugin that you add on the plans that should have access to that plugin. To be completely honest with you, I don't think it's a good idea to add a feature like that, because you can install a plugin, forget you have that option available for a product, and allow all of your user base to access a particular plugin that was not intended for use. So I'm not sure if this is something that we will implement. I have questions. Does your plugin work with iTheme security? And I have used it, but it doesn't work with it. Yeah, iThemes, it can get a bit too aggressive in in the things that it checks. It's probably something that we can fix. So I would appreciate if you could contact me and send me the specific issue that you are having in terms of compatibility, and we'll take a look and see what we can do. Will the affiliate WP plugin be updated as well and ready for launch and when V2 is released, or does the current version work with V2 as well? So first, version 2 is released. The current version of affiliate WP does not work. I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty I'm pretty sure it doesn't work. We do have a version 2 in the works. It's not ready yet, but it's one of the first add-ons that we are going to release. Like as I mentioned, one of the top priorities right now is feature parity, and the add-ons that we used to have, they are the first ones that are getting released. How do we add the services after they purchase? On the account page, there's a button that allows the customer to upgrade or downgrade. So that allows to switch plans, for example. But if you go to the product page and go to add a plan, you'll see that one of the tabs of the advanced options is called upgrades and downgrades, and there you can add the plans that should appear as upgrades and the packages and services that should be offered on the upgrade screen as order bumps, as we call it. Yeah, that's how you do it.
Steve Clark has asked, is there a media offloading integration coming?
Media offloading. Where's that question? Hmm? Oh, sorry. Okay. Where's that? Where is it?
Is there a media uploading integration coming? That's the question.
Not. No. Short answer is no. Not sure if it's something that we would do. There are a couple of solutions for that already. Maybe it's an easier path to try to get them to work with WP Ultimo. Okay, so the tablet that I was using to as a second screen just turned off. Okay, but yeah, guys, let me see. We are 2 hours in this. I think I'll probably end up things here. I invite, if you're not a WP Ultimo community user, I invite you to join us there. If your question was not answered here today in a satisfactory way, or I was not able to understand your question or properly answer it, please do repeat that question on the community as a post. I want to get those discussions started because what the WP Ultimo version 1 experience taught me is that I really need to understand what are the use cases that you guys have, because that way we can create integrations and create add-ons and add extra functionality that actually makes sense in terms of how it works with other plugins and things like that. That's one of the reasons why we are creating networks of our own as well, because like we develop networks for other like companies and things like that, but usually the requirements are very specific to the product that they are offering. And now that we will build a couple of products of our own, we'll probably understand a little bit better how we could improve on some aspects of the plugin. But yeah, I think if we manage to get these conversations going in the community, it would be great. Again, I would like to thank you all for joining. I would like to thank you again for the support. And yeah, that's it. Now, yeah, we'll probably have a 2.0.1 release later today. It's already, I just need to push the release button. And yeah, let me know if you stumble upon anything that looks odd. If there's something that looks like a bug to you, send me a message, explain the issue you're having, and the team and I will take a look and make sure we get it to work. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, have a great rest of the day.